there, my name is Caleb, and here we are going to be doing a quick interview from the WCG tournament. With me is Remodemo from Back2Warcraft. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you very much, Caleb. We could finally make this work. I'm glad we get a chance to talk and think back and explore.
Yeah, I mean, the conference, obviously, the event was a very, very fun event, and you and your friend was there. It was Neo that was also at the event with you. Is that right?
Yes, precisely. Yeah, we've been working on our project Back2Warcraft for quite a while now. Neo and me, we've been at a couple of years. We have established this casting team, and we have our little Twitch channel and everything. And at the last WCG 2019, we were allowed to participate, to be a part of the big legendary tournament. And of course, how could we say no? That was just obvious.
Yeah, and,
we
and
had to say yes.
casting is a very important part of the game, wouldn't you say? I mean, with people obviously playing it competitively, having somebody telling you what's going on is very important.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, competitive gaming is getting bigger and bigger. Esports is the big new thing. Everyone wants to get in, but it's every good piece of sport also needs a bit of storytelling. If you just see what's going on, it's not necessarily good enough. You want to see why is that happening and how is that happening and why is it so good. I think that's one of the biggest jobs, to point out why this player is as good as he is. We watch this game all the time. We know the ins and outs for the most part. And yeah, if you are into the game and if you've been following it for a while, what some of these players are doing is absolutely insane. And yeah, we try to bring the story, we try to bring the excitement as well. We want to get our excitement across the screens to the viewers, to the people in the audience, and to deliver the best possible experience for everyone, because we absolutely get super excited still by this game, and it's cool to see that the fans also do. The fans in Yinchuan, not Yinchuan, excuse me, in Xi'an were amazing. And yeah, we had the big live audience again, and being a part of that was just beautiful.
Right, and as you said, at Xi'an, there was so many different games there with a lot of different participants. We had a lot of different casters, of course, for each of those games, but it was essential to make sure that not only did the audience know what was happening, but like you said, to know why they're so good, because there's a lot of intricacies with these different games. And what I guess one of my first questions for you is how did you get into casting? Was this something that you used to play for a long time yourself and thought, hey, casting would be a good idea, or what was that path?
I think it was a pretty normal one for any kind of fan of the game nowadays. Back in school, I had a couple of friends and they were playing games, age of 12, 13, something like that, early high school days or middle school. And started off with Counter-Strike. That was the big game back then, and suddenly came Warcraft 3. At the beginning, it was pretty daunting because the real-time strategy game, it's so complicated. You have so many heroes, so many decisions, and as a little tiny noob like me back then, pretty scary. But you had the friends, you had the online custom games, you had fun maps and stuff. There was such a big, vibrant community, and my friends got me into it. A little bit later, I found out there were pro gamers as well, playing for big money with big tournaments, WCG already early on back then. And once in, I was hooked.
So right then, obviously, you said you were a big fan of the game. You knew the game very well, which allows you to actually be able to understand it when you're explaining it to other people. When you first started casting for games, how long ago was that?
Let me think back. So this was quite a while ago. We've been casting regularly again since 2014, but that wasn't actually our beginning. We took a break a little bit 2012-13 when the game was pretty close to dead, to be honest. But we actually started out back then in German with audio streams, radio only, no Twitch, no video. Computers were too bad. Streaming software was too bad. Internet was too bad. You just couldn't really do it comfortably from home as you can nowadays. And that was 2008. Yeah, radio streams back then. Few may remember ESL radio back then. At the tender age of 18, I began. So it's 10 years ago. Yeah.
Wow. So you can obviously call yourself a professional at this point in time. One question for you. I guess it's when you first started way back then, there wasn't a whole lot of other people in esports at the time, right? Esports was kind of a niche thing. And how do you feel like it's grown since then, from 10 years ago to now? Do you feel like it's just become huge, or what's the difference?
Tremendous difference. I mean, I've been there, not from the very, very beginning, if we want to go into the specifics. Warcraft 3 wasn't the first esports title. Neither was Counter-Strike. I think it really began with Quake back in '98 when people were sitting in a LAN and having the CRT monitors and all that stuff. But when I really got into it, 2005, we were working for ESL Radio, and they had the big ESL company that still exists nowadays, and they have been growing immensely with esports. Esports is an insanely booming industry. We started out back then. Warcraft 3 was played in Germany when I started casting at events where the grand finals, if we could get together 50 people to watch, that was pretty good. And already then it was on the rise. And I mean, look at nowadays. Xi'an WCG was so big. We had 2 halls filled. The main stage was huge, absolutely massive. Was so fun to see all these fans there. And it's not just WCG, it's not just in China, it's all over the world. Other games as well. We're filling stadiums nowadays. We started out in the basement with a couple of guys, I don't know, a couple of dozens, and nowadays we fill full stadiums. So yeah, esports has grown magnificently, and I think it will continue on that path.
You're completely right. From when I just started in this industry just a few years ago, from what it is right now, we're seeing over $1 billion jump into it even this year. And I think what's incredible about that is not only the players that have been involved with it for so long, but people like yourself, people who've been casting and actually creating this community, I think are a big part of that. So I guess one thing about WCG, what made this this place, different? What made this event something special as opposed to things that you've done in the past?
WCG was the first really big esports tournament just in general, period. When they started out in the early 2000s, WCG took it, the esports concept, and tried to make it big. On a bit of a prayer, kind of. Nobody knew if it was going to work, but it was a massive hit with stops around the world, with different countries every year. And it was considered like the Olympic Games. And for many game titles represented, it was the World Championship. That's what it was for Warcraft 3. Warcraft 3 also had other tournaments, but every other one was either smaller or less prestigious. If you ask all of the top players from back then, WCG, that was the tournament of the year, the most important one, the one that gives you the right to call yourself world champion. And so there's extremely rich history, especially with Warcraft 3 and WCG, because it had such an immense role, an incredible role, and such weight to it. Every Warcraft 3 fan knew WCG. Every player was practicing for WCG, was trying to win WCG. Until there was the break in 2013, and we didn't know if WCG was ever going to come back. But when it did come back in 2019, all the players were like, "Yep, that's it. I have to practice for this. I have to play for this." And especially the ones who weren't able to win the championships before tried their hardest from Europe, from China, from Korea. And WCG will always be that first big tournament, that first tournament that was able to call itself World Championship. And so for Warcraft 3 especially, it is an immense title and a great honor.
Yeah, I agree. When I was there, I was lucky enough to be there at WCG. I got to be a participant as well as a caster, as well as an attendant, just kind of walking around and seeing it for myself. And I was blown away by not only the amount of people, but how excited they were for when the games were going on and how much cheering there was and, how much action there was filling the room with energy. One thing I wanted to ask you was, obviously you saw many different matches. You were casting several of them. What was one of your most favorite memories from actually casting a match? So maybe something that actually happened in the match, but something that got you excited and got the audience excited as well.
Oh yeah, Moon is the most legendary player in Warcraft 3 history. He's the most successful player of all time. The legendary Night Elf from South Korea. He was, of course, not missing from WCG. He would not let that slip away from him. So he had a fairly deep run. He didn't get the title in the end. Sorry for spoilers. Didn't make the final either, but he got 4. He got into the top 4. And there was one game, him against it was Echo Isles, where the game was extremely close. Non-Warcraft fans perhaps won't really be able to follow me here, but it was right on the edge. Heroes were leveling up. Armies were dying everywhere. There was split-second decisions. There was ultimates where the Pandaren Brewmaster, who almost dies, splits into his ultimate form, becoming 3 other pandas, and the crowd was absolutely going wild. When Moon is playing, it's not hard to get the crowd engaged and excited, and they were every time he was playing. When he's on stage, it's packed. You have to make sure you get a seat early, because if you come a little bit late, you're probably not going to be seeing much, because there's no seats left. But that game especially, that even for like Moon standards, even if the fans are already super hyped, that game just almost made the room boil. You could feel like how it's heating up, because there was so much energy in the room, and everyone was losing their minds, because it was two of the best players going at it, producing legendary games, of which we saw plenty at WCG. Yeah, that was my favorite moment.
It's excellent to hear that. I think that a lot of people that come to these events get to have at least, one or two moments like this that they always remember when they leave the event. Kind of sticks with them from time to time, and we always look forward to coming, the next year to kind of relive those types of moments, and hopefully we can get them again and again. Another question I wanted to ask you is how did you feel like you were treated? I mean, one thing that I was very impressed with myself at WCG, and very honestly, was actually how well they had taken care of everything. I mean, it seemed like they had a plan for almost all the events for the people that were participating, as well as for the casters. Did you feel like it was very well set up? I mean, what was your take on just the whole setup of the structure of the event?
Extremely organized. We Germans, we pride ourselves in being very organized and efficient, and this tournament did a very good job at that as well. Perhaps the best I've ever seen. Normally, we're like on the side, and we're doing like the English broadcast, oftentimes in Chinese lands, and well, I mean, we are appreciated certainly, but doesn't seem like perhaps they are focusing on us too much. But at WCG, we had dedicated employees, staff, always in contact with us when there was questions. We were always getting answered. They were always asking for feedback as well. Feedback was given and received really quickly. Everything was in order. Whenever a problem did arise, which does sometimes happen, it's a big live event, there's so many things to juggle. Quick adjustments were always made. Everyone was trying their hardest, and like just decent and nice, and it was really, really, really well handled from the staff side towards us, towards the players, from what I heard. Yeah, I absolutely feel so as well.
Yeah, the amount of attentive, attention that we actually got from each person there was incredible. So I thought that was very exciting. Would you want to go to WCG 2020 if you had the opportunity?
Yes, of course. It's WCG. It's legend. It's what can I compare it to? It's like the World Cup. It's like the World Cup. Like if you work in the industry, how can you miss out on the World Cup if you have a choice? Yeah, I would absolutely love to go. Would want to go.
Yeah,
certainly.
I think so too, and I think you said it earlier when you mentioned that the WCG is kind of like the Olympics of esports. I felt that way myself, and the way that they allow each country to represent themselves, hold the flag, and kind of stick together. I thought that was amazing and really, really well done. One thing, I mean, we're kind of wrapping it up here. I wanted to also ask you, what, of course, is Back2Warcraft up to? Kind of where can people find you? I want you to give us all the information about what you're doing and how people can see what you're doing until next year, until they see you at 2020 WCG.
We live stream Warcraft 3 tournaments all the time on our twitch.tv/Back2Warcraft. If you missed those, you can check them out on YouTube, youtube.com/Back2Warcraft. We have Twitter as well, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff. Need to have it, of course. Everything Back2Warcraft. You can find us there if there's any Warcraft need in your heart, any kind of desire you want to fill. Warcraft 3. The future for us, what it holds in store, hopefully many more adventures. And it seems that way because we are at a very exciting point in Warcraft 3 history. So many people played the game back in the day, and we're hoping that a lot of people will return and will stick with the game, see it again. It's going to be our chance to present our game that we've loved for so long to new players again. It's going to be really exciting. And Warcraft 3 still has a long future ahead of itself. And a very bright one.
Very good to hear that. I'm going to make sure to put the description, the links in there for people to see. That way they can get to your channel. I do want to thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us. And of course, we do hope to see you at WCG 2020. That'll be awesome. Remo, is that it? Remodemo?
Remodemo. Yeah.
Remodemo. There you go. You guys have a great day. Thank you for checking this out. See you in the next one.